SpaceX launches its Starship rocket on its fifth flight tests. Starbase was focused on these flight tests. Falcon 9 returns to flight. Gruyère reaching the Swiss sky. Busy week in rocket launches. I'm Christophe Paget from All About Space, and this is your Space Update. Despite the open dispute between Elon Musk's SpaceX and the FAA has finally provided SpaceX with a flight license for his integrated flight test number 5 and even number 6, about 6 weeks before the advertised date from the administrations. So now that the FAA license is out of the way, SpaceX was finally ready to go and demonstrate how the new Starship tiles are performing during re-entry, how the booster can be caught by the Mechazilla Tower 1 arms, and how accurate the Starship landing can be. The spacecraft took off from Starbase Boca Chica on Sunday, October 13th at 12:25 UTC and ascended up to 70 kilometers altitude before stage separation. Now, all three Raptor engines were lit and produced the necessary thrust for the ship to reach the speed of 5,200 km an hour. The second stage climbed to its required orbit of 200 km, whilst the first stage was turning back to site. The boost back burn happened without any issues, and the booster was cruising all the way to Boca Chica. You could see how hot the engine bells were during descent due to friction during atmospheric re-entry. It reached the landing site, exactly where it took off, to be awaited open arms by the tower, using 13 of his Raptor engines to slow down from 1200 km an hour to 250 km an hour, at which point it had gone down to just 3 engines. The booster started to hover at about 100 to 200 meter high. During this time, the tower arms were closing in to capture it. All that within 7 minutes. You are looking at the catch from the booster camera, where you could really see the catch precision thanks to the booster attitude control system and the tower arms. The catch looked so amazing that it's almost like if it was a CGI stage footage. A very special moment in the name of engineering and space science. Looking at the state of the first stage, his aft section was the most impacted by the flight. Indeed, the engine section was burning along with the fuel connection point and nearby area. Now, one of the shields for the composite overwrapped pressure vessels was damaged, as you could see on your screen during descent. It is difficult to see on the footage, but several engine bells were deformed during the flight tests, including the shield around them. Now, Elon published in X that they have just inspected the Starship booster, which the arms have now placed back to his launch mount. It looked great. A few outer engine nozzles were warped from heating and some other minor issues, but these are easily addressed. As for the hot staging ring, it was released from the booster and carried on its atmospheric re-entry and was filmed splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico. The second stage was cruising for 50 minutes at an altitude of 210 km and a speed of 26,700 km an hour, the required orbital velocity, before it started its descent, where the Starlink network allowed us to see the plasma surrounding the belly of the Starship and its flaps. 50 minutes later, the Starship has endured a large amount of plasma, and its forward flaps started to see signs of damage at around 52 km altitude. Luckily, at 38 km altitude, the atmospheric re-entry was over and Starship was then on a free fall, belly first, towards its landing spot in the Indian Ocean, and then carried out the belly flop maneuver a few hundred meters above the water and relit its 3 center Raptor engines for soft landing. Starship was awaited by a buoy fitted with a camera to witness this momentous event, meaning that the landing was relatively accurate and that the flap control surfaces worked as planned. Once the Starship laid on its side, it suffered a large explosion. So I guess not much can be recouped from that Starship now. What an amazing achievement, I must say. This gives a confidence boost for SpaceX to continue working on its IFT-6 with further improvement from the IFT-5 results. Of course, SpaceX was celebrating this momentous event on top of one of their bays. Congratulations to SpaceX. At Starbase, at the launch site, SpaceX was busy with the preparation and launch of the IFT number 5. At the production site, the new parking lot gets a giant mural of what SpaceX expects Mars to look like in the next decades. SpaceX continued this production, where we could see some sections for Booster 16 coming out of the Star Factory to be assembled in the Megabay. Moving on from Starbase, on September 28th this year, SpaceX suffered an incident related to the Falcon 9 second stage burning up in the wrong place on its return to Earth during the mission Crew 9. Now, since that day, the FAA requested an investigation and did not allow SpaceX to fly a Falcon 9 where the second stage needed returning back to Earth for burning up in the atmosphere. I am very choosy with my words here, simply because on October 7th, SpaceX was allowed to fly its mission Hera because the mission required to bring the second stage and its payload to an interplanetary transfer orbit, meaning that the second stage will not be able to return to Earth for disposal. SpaceX has now concluded this investigation and provided the second stage incident report to the FAA, which days later allowed the FAA to reissue SpaceX operating license for its Falcon 9, ending a 2 weeks flight interruption. The FAA has also received the report from 2 previous incidents involving a Falcon 9. The first one on July 11th was relating to a liquid oxygen leak on the second stage, indirectly caused by a pressure sensor, which was removed, and the second report was related to a first stage crash landing on a drone ship on August 28th. The FAA has reviewed these reports and closed the investigations, and you will see that SpaceX is now clearly back on the launch business this week. Gruyère space program, a Swiss company, has successfully sent his rocket Colibri to a height of 100 meters, lasting 60 seconds and navigating up to 30 meters before returning safely to the landing pad. And no, the rocket is not made of cheese. The company is from Gruyère in Switzerland. 100 meter high might not be much, but the team has done such on a shoestring under $290 kilo. Incidentally, this is the first rocket to have demonstrated reusability in a free flight in the European continent. So well done, Gruyère Space Program. October 13th, SpaceX launched the biggest, most powerful rocket for its mission Starship Integrated Flight Test number 5 from Texas. The first stage was brand new and landed back to site in an incredible fashion, as previously discussed. The next day, SpaceX launched a Falcon Heavy for its mission Europa Clipper from Florida. The side boosters have flown for their 6th time, and the first stage was brand new. All 3 were expanded due to the mission of sending a 6 metric ton satellite to an heliocentric orbit on its way to Jupiter. October 15th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 from Florida for a Starlink mission Group 1010. The first stage flew for its 11th time and landed on a drone ship. On the same day, SpaceX launched another Starlink mission Group 97, this time from California. The first stage flew for his 19th time and landed on a drone ship. The same day saw a flight of a Long March 6A by CSC from China for his mission G60 Polar Group 2. On October 16th, the last rocket of the week, CSC launched another Long March 4C from China for his Gaofen 1205 mission. In summary, from January 1st until October 17th, 2024, 191 rockets were launched successfully, Out of that, 118 were from an American company or institution, and 48 from China. I leave you this week with this striking image from the Hubble Space Telescope of the Prone Nebula, also known as IC 4628, a massive stellar nursery in Scorpius, about 6,000 light years away. Now, this vast region of star formation spans about 250 light years and glows predominantly in the light emitted by ionized hydrogen atoms. It is a rich tapestry of interstellar gas and dust sculpted by the powerful stellar winds and ultraviolet radiation from the hot, young stars embedded within it. The intricate details and complex structures within the Prone Nebula make it a fascinating object of study for astronomers. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space. See you at the next episode of Space News.